selling cures for the sickness they created. You see the game, right? Look close. Coughing in the streets, but the air ain't clean. They push a narrative on a plasma screen. Blame it on the seasons, blame it on the breeze. Why they making billions off a new disease? Contracts signed in rooms with no light, trading our well-being for a little more might. It's a chess game, we just pawns in the play, but the truth got a way of seeing light of day. They spread the virus, then they sell the cure. Keep the people scared, keep them insecure, yeah. But we ain't blind, we see the puppeteers, washing away the doubt, conquering the fears. Check the fine print, read between the lies. They got us masked up, looking at the skies, praying for a savior, hoping for a sign. While they counting profits, everything's by design. From the lab leak to the stock market crash, distract the masses, make a quick cash dash. They want compliance, they want full control, but they can't take your mind, can't buy your soul. They spread the virus, then they sell the cure. Keep the people scared, keep them insecure, yeah. But we ain't blind, we see the puppeteers, washing away the doubt, conquering the fears. Check the fine print, read between the lies. They got us masked up, looking at the skies, praying for a savior, hoping for a sign. They want compliance, they want full control, but they can't take your mind, can't buy your soul. They spread the virus, then they sell the cure. Keep the people scared, keep them insecure, that's right. But we ain't blind, we see the puppeteers, washing away the doubt, conquering the fears. But every seed of doubt can grow a tree of truth. From the seasoned elder to the fiery youth, let the knowledge spread, let the message rise. Gotta open up our hearts, open up our eyes. But every seed of doubt can grow a tree of truth. From the seasoned elder to the fiery youth, let the knowledge spread, let the message rise. Gotta open up our hearts, open up our eyes. We the people. Yeah, we hold the power still. Reading He while real. Conquer the fears. Rise up. See the
This is not a toothpaste. It's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts. Alpha Vedic Dental Solutions System. That's alphavedic.com/civilization. You know, we're always trying to bring you the best products here that we think will enhance your life, especially if supply chains break down further, or if there's some disruption in our lives here. It seems in the news more and more possible, but hey, who knows? Maybe it's a mind game. But what is not is keeping your dental health up. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? Will your toothpaste eventually run out? Well, if it does, then what? So like I say, this whole micro gut biome is driven by your oral cavity first. So take a look at what they have, alphavedic.com/civilization. Every purchase you make helps keep our live radio show and podcast on air, bringing you more information just like this. alphavedic.com/civilization. That link is in the show notes below. And as always, I appreciate your valuable time and joining us in this ever and most important conversation as we move forward in our world. Hey everyone, are you ready to grow your own fresh, delicious vegetables, herbs, and flowers this season? If you're looking for the highest quality heirloom and organic seeds, I've got the perfect company for you, True Leaf Market. They've been a trusted seed company since 1974, offering 3,000 types of non-GMO varieties, everything from classic heirloom tomatoes and peppers to rare herbs, microgreens, sprouting seeds, and beautiful flowers. All those seeds are open pollinated, pure, and perfect for home gardeners or anyone wanting healthy, flavorful produce without chemicals. What I love the most is their huge selection, fast shipping guarantees, plus options for bulk if you're going big. If you're excited to start your garden this year with real, authentic heirloom and organic seeds, click the link in the description box below. Check out TrueLeafMarket.com. You won't regret it. Happy planting, and thank you for supporting the channel and this broadcast.
Please remember to sign up for our show notes. With Civilization Cycle podcast, you can learn what to expect as society resets. Agriculture, economy, tech, and history all have mappable cycles, and these cycles affect every aspect of our lives. We can navigate the chaos and thrive together with up-to-date news and information. Also, if you like the content we have here on Civilization Cycle, think about fueling the discussions and the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Civilization Cycle. And thank you for all the support.
Afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on this beautiful blue planet. We are in a rerun once again. Have you noticed that the old is new and the new is new and the old is new? Well, we're starting to see the rollback out here of another virus. I'm looking on the news, hantavirus now in 6 countries. Officials present new origin, new plan. Everybody do the same thing. Oh, wait. We got the exact same thing being told to us because of the oil shortages. So now we're getting 2 events telling us work from home, stay away, don't go into the grocery stores, stay away. You can only spend your money online. This is the world we've entered into. That's why I'm saying it's a 2.0. Also, taking a look at a couple of articles, the UN climate panel quietly admits doomsday climate scenarios were implausible. Now, why do you think such articles would be coming out now? Well, they're going to have to step away from the global warming and the whole emissions narrative as this global war continues. You can't tell me that you got thousands and thousands of Stratotankers, B-52s, fighter jets, and whatever else is up there, EO6s, and then we got the entire carrier group fleets, emissions blowing everything into smithereens, like just incredible amounts of soot and emissions in the air from the burning oil fires, and you're supposed to walk to work instead of drive a car. Like, it's insanity all the way around. You can see why they're going to pull back on some of these things. The script is being rewritten because I was looking today. As of this week, they're at least 1 billion barrels short of energy flows that would have gone into the economy. So now oil good. We must have it. So again, you can't have this dual messaging and one layer of messages being stripped back while the other is being pushed. Now, I assure you, after this war concludes and the oil flows resume and the natural gas resumes its natural flows and plastics and chemicals flow again, that script will be reversed and then you'll be asked to walk to work again instead of drive a car. But for right now, all immediacy is getting the economy stabilized and letting the war machine continue. I don't hear anybody protesting or writing a bunch of tweets about war emissions. Haven't seen that since the beginning. So all of you out there, rah, gonna go up 2 degrees, 1 degree, whatever, you're blowing smoke. So anyway, Ransom Godwin with me tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, the Civilization Cycle podcast. Join us on civilizationcycle.com. Throw your email address in there. I'll get you the show notes here tomorrow morning. And buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. We'll read through some of those comments tonight. Please do comment, and we do read those during the live show and try to respond to a few. If you have any links that you think might be of interest, please drop those in the chat, and we'll see what we can find. Also, one last thing, Ransom. I saw that Jeff Bezos is now a major investor in something called Arrived, which used to be Arrived Housing, where you have fractional ownership of homes as an investment. And JD Vance is now a major funder in something called Acre Trader, which allows you also to buy fractional percentages of 1 acre as an investment for microtransactions on investments. You will own nothing, and you're going to be a micro trader. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. David Devine here, Ransom Godwin, the Civilization Cycle podcast every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight. And away we go. Let's add that image and go.
There we go.
All right.
Yeah.
Welcome,
yeah.
Ransom.
It's super psyop time. It's super psyop summer. Get your psyops ready.
Super psyop summer. I need a t-shirt that says that. I'm going to write that down. Where's my pen, Ransom? Super psyop summer. I need it.
It's just really funny because I'm looking through these articles and they're really making it sound like this is some kind of respiratory virus, which the hantavirus, if you don't know, comes from only one source, rat poop or mice poop. It's kind of prevalent here in the Southwest. We had an outbreak when I was a kid. People got all weird, wouldn't let people in stores, based on where they live. They were kind of blaming the reservations for it. And then people became pretty educated on it. It's just spring cleaning. Spring cleaning is what causes hantavirus, usually because people sweep or vacuum or move debris around that's full of rodent feces. So it's not something that's going to go human to human. So why they're acting like they have this super track and trace emergency going on I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's talking
Wait a second,
about
another layer, Ransom. We're layering up now on excuses and reasons to be tracked, to be traced, to be limited on where you can move, when you can move, and how much energy you can consume. So you see this layers in on itself. It's an onion layering. We're about 2 or 3 layers deep now after the skin's been peeled off.
right. That and I was going to go there in a second. It's
Go.
the global effort. Like you like their terminology, the global effort to fight off something that 9 people got on a cruise ship, undoubtedly from exposure to feces from rodents of one kind or another, because those are generally sometimes bats carry the hantavirus as well, because we had the whole 2020 summer of the bat. Matter of fact, there's so many coincidences, like the 2020 quarter had a big bat on it, and it was just ironically already was supposedly in the minting print for the year 2020 to give us a bat coin. And then you got this. Why would we have a global effort to figure out where hantavirus will strike next when we basically know exactly where it'll strike? It'll strike anywhere where people are moving or putting rat feces in the air, and then they're exposed to breathing little particulates of the poo poo, and they get hantavirus. Matter of fact, if you remember, just a couple months ago, what was it? What's the guy's name there? I lost it. The actor out here in New Mexico was infected with the hantavirus. Hugh Jackman. No, that's wrong. That's Wolverine. What's the older guy that died? He was like 84. I can't believe I forgot his name.
Yeah, I watch a
Anyway,
lot of movies. I can point and go, "Oh, that dude or that chick. I know which one
right.
that was. Oh, that girl. Yeah." Hey,
Come on.
speaking of bats, you got Batman on the Bat coin. Do you have any Bat cisgenders out there? Or is it just Batman, Batwoman, or Bat cisgender? Can you get a whole
They got the,
compilation in there? Give me the coins, man. Throw me the nuggets.
no, it's just I think it was just a quarter. That was all we got. But it was ironic that it came out. Now I'm Gene Hackman. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the audience out there. Please send us
Yes.
another comment. Gene Hackman,
Yes, Gene
winner.
Hackman.
We'll send you a snowflake as a consolation prize for throwing that in the chat.
Anyway, him and his wife, I guess didn't know that they had it and were going along about their lives. And I think the wife actually died partially from the hantavirus, and then he kind of starved to death. He also had the virus. But it's not something that's going to be a global pandemic. It's silly that they're doing that. So it makes you think, what's happening right now, that they really want people to concentrate on fear of a new, virus spreading everywhere, which is very limited odds on that, unless some kind of new magical, because it just came out for sure that it was a lab leak from the United States. The virus originated here, the one that we're talking about. We can't name it because we'll get in trouble. But that one that caused all the havoc last time around 2020, we all know all about that. So unless this is something like that, I'm not worried at all about it. Not a single bit. If you're cleanly and you regularly clean out things, you're not going to have this issue. If you have cats, you're not going to have that problem.
Yeah, I didn't know rats were ever on ships. I thought they were out in the water and no rat could ever get on a ship or a mouse, huh?
Right. I think it's more about this right here. I think the whole Hanta scare is about this Chinese oil tanker hitting the Hormuz.
Yeah, like how do you connect those together? I will say one thing, the Taiwan news up in Taipei keeps focusing on millions of mice up in Taipei right now. There's like a rodent outbreak up there in certain parts of the city. So I'm wondering if that's connected to this. And then how do you think that this Chinese oil tanker being hit connects to the hantavirus thing? I'm curious. How do they weave that together for me?
The reason I would say that is because, remember last week when China was basically saying they don't care about anything that we got going on, and they're going to move their ships in and out of that strait and get their oil because they have contracts with Iran. They don't care about our sanctions. So, all this, it's very doubtful to me that Iran would attack one of their allies, but, maybe it was an accidental thing. I read through the article. It doesn't say who hit the Chinese tanker. But we know tensions are rising because, every day we have the ceasefire deal, but then someone violates that deal. It's the peacefire deal. You have peace, but that's while we're bombing continually.
Hey, Ransom, I told you last week that I'd read the articles or China was planning to send 6 VLCCs at the same time, floating over the number was confirmed 6, and a carrier, a tanker fleet to run through the American blockade to go get oil. So this confirms that somebody sent a message already this week, the same week that those tankers just left China. We're going to be transiting through the Malacca Strait here in another week. That your ships could get attacked if you go over there. Isn't that really kind of interesting? We talked about that last week as well.
Right. And I thought it was really funny that I scanned through this whole article and it didn't say the U.S. didn't say Israel didn't say Iran. It just says was attacked, and that's it, according to sources.
Yeah, which sources, when they always say professional sources or whatever, industry experts, like they never give you a name, according to sources, according to leading experts. Like, who are these leading experts? Where's the name on it?
Right. Maybe it's like how the police do it. It's a confidential informant.
Yeah, let me pop up this article right here since we got the screen on. This is an interesting one. Talk about the pharmaceutical shortage and the largest generic plant was blown up in India's out-of-base chemicals. Well, those are two separate things. As far as I know, 15% of the generic drug supply is offline on the planet right now due to that destruction of the chemical. Now, they did have a lot of precursors that they made generic and sent out in bulk to other places like India, like Sun Pharmaceuticals is a big one in India that used to rely on Middle East precursor exports to bring that in. So Sun Pharmaceuticals will be one of the first hit, already is. And, again, they haven't alleviated the plastic or the polypropylene woven bag shortages for rice packing. So they're trying to get a distribution network out, and they do need to put police when the rice trucks come in because people just, even though they're very good at waiting in line, this has gone over the threshold of what's acceptable in Indian society. So now armed guards are going with the rice trucks to do the distribution. Before, you had a polypropylene bag and they came in different sizes, like for American equivalent, like 5 pound, 10 pound, 25 pound, 50 pound, 100 pound bags. But since we're here, it was like 50 kilograms, 25 kilograms, 5 kilograms. Those used to be full. You just go into the supermarket, you pick one off the shelf, and it's already got like 10 pounds of rice. You walk up to the supermarket, you pay for it. They don't have those bags anymore, so they need to go out with trucks. People need to weigh it on a scale, and then they need to pay in line. And it's kind of a bicycle chain. They actually have before the vendor would just grab the money with the hand. Now it's different. They got one person just for monies, one person just weighing for the appropriate amount of rice. But people are unwilling to wait in line. They're like, that's the last straw. That if you're looking for a straw that broke the camel's back in India, this is it. Like Indian society is getting upset, upside down, and the more politeness side of it is completely dissolved. It was kind of almost every nation on the planet is kind of at the edge of niceness dissolving right now. But this was it. This was the final straw. So when I'm looking at that, India's out of chemicals. They're becoming more out of plastics. They're running out of fuel. Their exports for fertilizers are not coming out or in because they do export some different kinds and bring them in. You have to look at the ratios on that on the export. So I'm always boggled by how somebody can have a fertilizer shortage, yet they're a fertilizer exporter. It's just like America. We're major oil exporters, but our oil prices and gasoline prices are going up. So in the top 5 in the world, the U.S. is in the top 5 list of increases in fuel prices, which is kind of strange, being such an oil exporter. And then they try to blame it. Oh, it's on the grade of crude. We're a heavy sour crude refinery country, and what we're pulling out of the ground is a little bit lighter. West Texas Intermediate thing. We can't use that. So this is another thing I don't get. Largest oil producer on the planet, or at least in the top 3, but we didn't build the refineries to refine our own oil because it was cheaper to get it of a heavy sour crude variety from another place. So again, is that not purposeful destruction of your own energy supply? Like, why would you build something that can't refine your product coming from your own nation, that they're relying on this mismatch of, we'll export the good stuff and we'll pull the crap stuff in at a discount, and we'll be able to get that overage on the refined products as long as that, import-export cycle continued. And, well, it's broken now. So where did they go? They went to invade Venezuela. You see that should have been a key driver there, that invading Venezuela to get a heavy sour crude oil source should have flagged me too, but it didn't. that the Caspian Sea region and some of the Middle Eastern regions were going to go offline. So they were instantly looking for another crappy oil source. And when I say that, they need to pull the sulfur out of the oil first before it can even be refined. That's why it's called heavy, sour crude. Not like light sweet where there's nothing. You pour it right into a teapot and whoosh, away you go. So, the flags were all over the place. The signs were all over the place that we were going to be disrupted in oil. And that's why they hit Venezuela to go for that easy source. But, again, looking back in hindsight, it's really easy to get that low hanging fruit knowledge. But, as these things occur in a line of time, one event now, what's going on is absolutely setting the stage for the next chess piece further down, 1 month from now, 1 week from now, 1 year from now. So what is it and how is it that fertilizer is just taken off the planet at the moment? The major fertilizer exporters like India, but they're importers too, are down to complete shortages there, even though they produce it. Russia is still on we're not exporting anything. China said we're not exporting any fertilizers either. So America was relying on imported Chinese fertilizers. That's why our farmers can't get what they need. Again, like what moron took our base for the food producing industry and put it offshore into what was going to be a new enemy of ours, China, economically. And that was the way to go for 30 years. So they disassembled our economy from the inside out home in America. It's kind of treasonous the way they did that. Now look at what's happened. Everything was all completely offshored. All of our fertilizer industry and anything that could produce energy for us in terms of our own produced, homemade, home drilled crude. So I don't know. I think this was done on purpose, and there was a long-term plan to do such a thing over 30 to 40 years. It wasn't just like yesterday this occurred. This was a plan. Always has been, always will be. So I was going somewhere with the thought, but I ramble sometimes and I forgot what I was going to say.
No, man, it's absolutely chess moves. And that's kind of where I was going to go back to the Hanta.
Yeah, the Hanta
scare. Has a lot to do with the oil. So we're having all of these shipping problems. We're having supply distribution problems. Here's another reason to make sure that we can track and trace every single thing, right? If you just scare everybody and make them forget that they had all this figured out a few years ago, the tracking and tracing. So that's why I was pointing out the global effort to figure out where it's going to be next. But really, it's about this, right? Dayton authorities say that the flock cameras data allegedly used for immigration informant. And, nobody has a problem with that because, a lot of people are wanting mass remigration to happen or deportation, however you want to word that. But of course,
wait a second.
It ain't going to be used for them only. Right?
I thought that flock camera system was only used to tag a license plate, not to be able to view the drivers inside. So now they're telling you they lied about the entire makeup of the technology and how it's being used?
No, not really, because, like I was telling you before about the flock cameras that happened right after the first No King rally. And I told you they set them up all over my town just overnight. There they were, right by all the food places, by the shopping centers, by the gas places, whatever, hospital. And they have it pointed in such a way that you can't go in any direction without being tracked. On that same flock camera system is a wireless connection, a cellular connection over to the police department. And there's a whole program that's running in probably every state. I know it's in New Mexico, where businesses, I brought this up too, where businesses opt in to make their business more secure. They allow the flock system to have feeds from their CCTV or their wireless security cameras that they have. And on those little mounted, things that they put out, which is like a little trailer with the flock camera, but also on that flock camera is a facial recognition camera with software in there. So they not only are keeping track of the cars, but they're keeping track of the occupants in the cars. And remember, I brought this up and you thought it was kind of crazy, but I told you 100 miles in, or 90 miles actually, to be exact, there is a Border Patrol station all through the Southwest. So anywhere you come in from Mexico or off the coast, 90 miles inland, was the new Homeland Security's constitutionally free zone, like, because you have no rights there. It doesn't matter if you're an American and you're free traveling and you're in your state and you haven't broken any laws and you have all your paperwork up to date and you have all that. They can still stop you. And because the Supreme Court said they could look for human odor and the odor of narcotics. So with those two vague statements, they're allowed to stop anyone and violate their constitutional rights. But everybody got used to that. Decades went by, and now, like I said, I brought up the camera system. When you drive by that thing, it's got like 8 different cameras. There's an infrared camera, facial recognition camera. There's a license plate reader. There's regular cameras. There's odor detecting sensors. There's lasers that can detect odors and stuff like that. So they have a whole plethora of sensors and stuff. Now they're compacting that down into one unified system. And you're going to see that on every block. You remember how Bill Clinton in the 90s said we need a policeman on every corner, but that really didn't work out. All they did is give themselves new powers. They always give themselves new powers. And I'm going to show you right where this chess move puts us. So surveillance tools intended for border control are being used against Americans. Obviously, if they set up a system, they're going to use it. But let's go a little further in it, right? Well, it's not the tornado thing, but we're talking about this whole worldwide shortage of things. So they want to keep track of everything: money, where people go, where resources go. And a while back, you were talking about, I don't remember how many years ago, but you were talking about how they wanted to put a number and kind of digitize every item, every animal, every tree, everything on the whole planet. And this is kind of where it's going. I don't know if you saw this on the news, but there was a big hiccup in Utah when the biggest data center yet conceived, it's like, I don't know how many acres it is, it's big, was okayed without the locals vote on it, without their say on it. Matter of fact, they don't want it. And they are now claiming that it will benefit military installations, right? So these data centers are there to process the tracking and tracing of everything, every person. And that's the same reason why they want to put kill switches in the cars, why they want you to get rid of your older cars, because, and I don't think they're going to let go of that environment thing. They're just going to switch it up to fit a new narrative.
I don't know. State authority claims massive data center. I do believe that is Kevin O'Leary, as one of the comments had stated here. Kevin O'Leary, if I can find that one again, is the investor of the largest data center. I think where you're talking about right there, that exact location. It was just above the Gene Hackman. Kevin O'Leary building the largest data center in Utah gets approved by City Council. That must be the exact same article you're referencing right there. So Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, is the one who's doing the investment in that very data center you have up there on the screen right now.
Right. And it's huge. Oh, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, no, it's the largest data center in Utah, period.
I forget how many. It's like several acres. But what they're doing is admitting that it doesn't matter if you want it there or not. They're going to put it there. And then soon we're going to be claiming national security over these data centers. Why? Because the threat of viruses, the same threat that they scare you biologically, they're going to scare you technologically. And they're going to push this narrative to where everyone's going to agree to be tracked all the time. They're going to let the crime rates go up. They're going to do all of these different things that just make you think, you know what? It's a safer world if all of us get tracked, we get our food delivered to us, or we go to a food distribution center, or things like that. I mean, we've talked about all these scenarios, and it's funny that they keep making chess moves in order to push that agenda to where people adopt it or choose it for themselves, basically. But this is a key thing happening with this data center, because it shows you whether you want it or not, they're going to put it there.
Yeah, it's all about connect. Now, see, here's the thing, what you talked about, and the digitization of all resources on the planet is still continuing to move forward. I guess they had designated and cataloged 10 million strains of DNA that can now be not patented, but used on the blockchain in its own form as digitized artwork, for example, or digitized barrels of oil. Oak trees as a species on the planet is now a digitized tree species. So with that being said, once it's a digitized tree species, they can put it in their LiDAR and different types of surveying satellites and get a real world usage and assessment on the entire planet, how many there are, density per acre, overall, close guess to the number of oak trees standing on the planet once every 24 hours. Now, once you start to get into this digitization of everything, then there can be a usage charge for it. And this is where part of the carbon sequestration and carbon offset credit market was coming from, was pledging an entire acre of forest of your own property and then receiving that. It was $8. They were planning to go to 12 and then 30. And then ultimately the peg was going to be $200 per acre per year. But that subsequently has fallen below $5 now because, well, you can see the carbon offset credit. Nobody cares anymore. There's a world war going on. But the digitization continues of all these assets. Now, quietly behind where, the front of the news you're seeing is the distractive events of the world to keep you infighting, divided, and attention drawn away from the real deal that's happening. Cataloging the first million and then up to 10 million different species on the planet then can be assessed a value, or mark my words, in the future, they're going to put areas of no usage, or you as a human will not be allowed to utilize that resource. And if you're found with it, it would be no different than you with a Bengal tiger skin that you harvested somewhere out of like Grajagan in Indonesia off the national park, or you having whale tusks, or you having elephant, ivory on you. It's illegal. Imagine having oak in your house somewhere is illegal. Having certain types of corn products in your house is illegal. Now they can chase it down with the GMO and the genetically modified traits to it, and that you have that in there without your license. Well, your home is civilly forfeited. You own no more land because this species, it wasn't grown on your land, you just were in possession of it. It's no different than different marijuana strains. If you have, a couple pounds of weed in your house in Tennessee, you're going to jail and they're taking your house. No different. You have a couple 100 pounds of cut wood that you did yourself off a sawmill, that's illegal oak now. No different. They're just going to assess everything, and there'll be a usage tax for every single item on the planet moving forward. Now, will it happen in our generation is the question, because they already tell you the end goal here is the reason the Internet of Things and Hashgraph is coming. And that was slated 10 years from now. So about 2035 was the point that they think the Internet of Things and Hashgraph will be advanced enough that they can get a real world daily 24-hour survey of the entire planet's resources. At that point, you are going to need to pay a usage fee, tax, whatever, tariff on every single thing you consume in your life. That is the plan. So we're going there already, and it's going to be used simply digital money, whatever form that takes. Is it going to be a government-issued stablecoin, a private-issued stablecoin? Not sure. But you already know that that's the transaction medium. The transactional tax or fees is going to be on what you use to stay alive on the planet. And that is the end goal. So every time you see the next step toward that, they're going over there. Like you're walking down the street, I know you're going to your house, Ransom. So I can trace your path, pretty well know where you're going, and just like the next step you take validates, yep, he's going to his house. It's the same thing. And the ultimate was 10 million catalog species. I know they're very well close to that now, because last time I looked, this is years and years and years ago, they were at the first 1 million. And now they've eclipsed 5, and they're closer to 10 now. So every species, and they were going for the big stuff, the visible with your eyes things first. Now they can use satellites also to track emissions from your house. Oh, you got a wood-burning fire, the smokestack, the heat, the soot, the whatever. The radiative heat coming off your roof, the radiative heat coming out of your walls. Oh, you need new building materials that are compliant with the new codes, because we can actually see the loss coming out of your house in terms of thermal energy. Your house will not be insurable. Your house will not be sellable until you convert to all of these new sustainable materials that allow your house to be more insulated with no thermal loss. See, this is the plan also in the future. Now, they couldn't do it right now because too many people have already just bought brand new homes. Too many people are underwater in the mortgages. As soon as we get into the selling frenzy again in 10 years after this cycle dips and comes back up, at that point, I think they're going to try it again. Because they did try it in several nations across the world and everybody just balked on it and said, hell no. You want me to put 200 grand in my house to convert it, but I can get 180 out of it in a sale. So you want me to lose 20 grand, gut my perfectly good house, and then install all these materials and then try to sell it again. They're going to pull the insurance first. That's the thing. They're going to not be insurable, and it's not going to be on the open market, because when you do want to buy it and transfer title, they won't allow the title to transfer until you have and materials. And it's going to be a government mandated inspection on the new sustainability materials in the home. And that's all going to be having license with it, and everything you buy is going to have that usage fee attached to it. See, we're being forced down this. So when they say by 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy. Yeah, when you get into 2035, 2040, I don't see ways for people to own things in terms of like we do today. Because just even to own it, you're going to have to pay this usage fee, and this whole world we've been brought up in the last 10 years where everything moved into subscription model. Like just even owning a home is going to be a subscription model thing.
Right.
You're going to have to have a usage tax subscription model with monthly updated allowances in it. And that's how I only know all this stuff, because they already told you all the plans. The World Bank, International Monetary Fund, and the Bank for International Settlements puts out hundreds and hundreds of PDFs per month. And if you spend the time and actually look through the ones with the cool titles, click on it and it'll even show you the roadmaps and the dates by the roadmaps. So once you start slamming this together, like Project SELA, SELA, for anybody out there looking, this is the first maneuver to get the entire world over to a digitized monetary system. Now, once the compliance is done with that and all nations are on board, then they can start to move other pieces. But the whole thing is predicated, or it has to happen first. Every other construct moving forward with this entire hash graph and Internet of Things, none of it works until the money can be moved seamlessly across the planet. And when I mean that, no more banks. Or if they are banks, they're in control of the digital issuance. Like none of that works. So keep your eyes glued to the money, because the money's got to be reset, retooled, reworked first. Then after that, there'll be the next chess piece move. So what I'm seeing in real time is the destruction of our current monetary supply and monetary world and economy to bring us into that reset of the new money, because that's the first thing that has to get set. Like if you're building a house, what are you going to do first? You're going to lay down a cornerstone. And then you're going to square that thing off. And then you're going to lay the foundation, then you're going to frame it. Well, the same thing is going up. The cornerstone and squaring of the house and laying the foundation is the new monetary system in a digitized fashion. Nothing else can be built until that's done. See, that's why it's so important to look at the energy, why this thing's happening. Look at the food, why the collapse in food availability and the increase in prices is here. They have to reset everything first before anything else can work. No reset monetary system, everything else you've ever heard of for the Great Reset doesn't work. So this whole war thing fits right into it. And I was looking for some different strain images for y'all strain hunters out there, because I follow Mr. Canucks Grow, and he's got some pretty sweet nugs out there. So I was trying to put up a couple pretty colors on the screen for us to look at. Ransom, I've been rambling again, man. Please take it over.
Well, the whole thing about the money is tied up with the AI control of everything. So in order to have this completely top-down authoritarian system controlled by AI, you have to have all its users in the monetary of the system. So that would have to be digital money. It would have to be. And it's kind of going very bizarre there. I thought it was going to take longer to do kind of the tracking and tracing end and get everybody to start behaving right. But the further I look into it, the further I realize it's already set. It's already implemented. All they're doing now is kind of getting the rats in the maze to behave like the scientists want. And for an example of that, they want, not only kids to have friends, the toys to have the AI, the computers to have the AI, the streaming software is now going to go to an AI model where each kid, can pick the characters they like, and it just makes up a bunch of fantasy for them. And AI capabilities are accelerating, not plateauing. 30% of US adults will seek an AI companion, but that's not really the point of, it getting better and better. It's no one has done this in the wild. Study observes AI replicating itself on other computers. That's right. And so the whole next scare of everything is that your property, your money, everything is out the window. It's not safe anymore. You're going to have to get new stuff that has new protections because, well, the IMF is worried that stability risk mount as artificial intelligence fuels cyber attacks with viruses that go into the AIs that are replicating themselves on the internet, just like in the movie Terminator, where the software in cyberspace started making copies of itself and became Skynet. That's exactly what they're talking about with these replicating softwares. Is it's an AI that's, I don't know, semi-sentient, and it's copying itself so it can't be deleted or altered across the internet. And then you have,
Now, wait a second, Rance. Let me stop you there. I had the exact same article up. And if you go down in that article a little bit, where it says Anthropic's recent controlled release of Claude Mythos, then if the third sentence down there, Mythos could find and exploit vulnerabilities in every major operating system and web browser, even when used by non-experts. Now, the reason that caught my attention was anybody using MetaMask or any type of Web3 wallet, that would be at risk of all your cryptocurrency being stolen unless you were running through like a hardware wallet that wouldn't allow the transaction to be signed until you went through your wallet, like a Ledger, Trezor, something like that.
Right.
But if you just downloaded it native off and you were just, running everything off your computer, off your laptop, and you were doing all signing and all allowance of transactions to move just through your computer without using an interface on a hardware wallet, then all that would be drained in a second. And that's what this specifically says. But not a lot of people are using like MetaMask. You really need to be into the crypto world to understand and be using MetaMask and Web3 wallets and things. Most people buy it through Coinbase and hold it on Coinbase. I mean, if you have MetaMask, you're way up in the intermediate to expert level already. Just that bar of coming over that, of using an interface that's on as a downloadable extension onto your, like whatever. I'm not going to say many more about the wallets, but that is the risk there. So if you had crypto, you could be drained out of that. And that's the scariest thing on this article here.
My point is it's not just crypto. Think about all of your banking accounts and how they constantly try to get you to move to paperless. The reason they want you to do that is because if you have on paper any discrepancies in the digital money that you hold in their bank, you can argue that fact because you have paper that they sent you from their company. But once you go paperless, things can just be changed. And are you really going to remember every transaction and every fee and all of that stuff by memory throughout a month or month to month? You're not going to. And whenever that happens, people can, not only just people, but banks and institutions can rearrange the information. Think about this. A lot of people are getting digital titles and stuff for new cars and stuff. You don't want that.
No. Paper, my friends. Paper only.
Right. So anything in there is susceptible to the system, and that's why they're really inclining people to move over to every new product that's not vulnerable to older attacks and stuff like that. That's going to be the whole new wave of products, from your card to your banking institution to your stuff inside your house. And then whenever you have to go back to the earlier article, you have AIs that are copying themselves, and they may be bad. When I mean bad, I don't mean evil, but I mean bad programmed. Like this, 8 and 10 chatbots inclined to assist users in planning attacks, including cyber attacks or real physical attacks. You have AI literally pushing people into a corner. And then when you know that AI is doing this with children, it's doing it with adults. It's like the classic wind-up toy, except for you don't actually have to have a bunch of government suits in black sitting across the street in their own house, sending you the Havana syndrome. Now you can just have the computer steer people into directions, steer people into attitudes. But it just gets worse because they want to track and trace everything, but they also want you to have their products that they're going to claim is hack proof or can't be used for that. But at the same time, out of the other side of their mouth, they're warning you to be afraid of all of these cyber attacks. So what happens when you get 100,000 real robots floating around? Because 100,000 is a good sized little city, or even more, because they're not the only ones. And then they're going to be hiding these data centers, not just in big facilities, not just in space, but in your neighborhood, where you lose it, where you go back to that idea you were talking about fractionalizing people's properties in their homes. Well, once some corporation gets enough of the shares of a certain property, then they can move in their company, and you can have data centers right next door to you, right in the house next door. And then you get into this weird idea of robotics and AI literally competing with humans for real estate, not just in the commercial areas or in the job areas, like competing with them for jobs, but you're now competing with them for homes, for property, for water usage. It's getting really bizarre.
Yeah, let me go back and share this, because chart of the week off the IMF site, like if you click on there and go through that and go past that article, you'll come into chart of the week. And I'm always a chart fan because I like to look at charts. So here's an interesting one. I was going down to look at the reduction of energy here. So what you're looking at is tax revenue based on the GDP and what percentage of GDP. So if you're coming in at 5% GDP, what percent of that is broken down by grants, tax, non-other tax revenues. So the big takeaway from this is low-income developing countries and emerging market economies look at the jump in tax revenue as part of their GDP, which means that they are charging more or pulling more from their citizens and milking the actual citizenry for more of their GDP. Now, this is just going to continue as our world is inflationized away here, for a better term. So tax revenue, look for taxes to increase. They're going to have to. The inflation rate is going to continue up in everything. So what I was really looking for was this one here, and the disruption to shipping and flights. So maybe I can widen that out here. No, thank you. No feedback. Middle finger to the feedback, babies. All right, so the disruptions to flight. Now, this is coming off the IMF. So they're already telling you and showing you that if we're using baseline at 70 and we're down somewhere in the middle 20s, that we've lost about half or more of that commercial shipping out of there. The Straits traffic has dropped pretty much to zero. Regional flights have dropped and come back. Okay, so we're starting to see a huge amount of disruption. So what does that mean? Flights are going to cost significantly more because there's less of them. Anything you buy and purchase, well, I don't care what kind of commodity it is, whether it's metals or fertilizer or medicines, it's going to cost you way more because none of the things are coming out of the transit of the Hormuz area, and that's 30% of the world's XYZ products, especially chemical, petrochemical, and medicine. You're going to be paying more. So all of this is just verifying the IMF's own charts are saying we're coming into a super inflationary event here. And what is that all about? That's just about stripping wealth and, moving it over. Moving it over. That's all we're looking for, is a movement over. This is a wealth redistribution event. Because another thing about this, reading all these articles, especially from IMF here, they can't get everybody to move into a new financial system unless they are in unbearable pain financially, is the way they put it. And what's the way to put everybody in unbearable financial pain is inflate away everything, not just 3 or 4 times the cost like we saw in a lot of COVID era food price increases, but like a 10x, 20x, 50x. At that point, then people would be unbearable pain. What if your home insurance goes up 50x? What if your car insurance 50x? Food prices 50x? You will be begging the government for any help you can get if it's able to pay and allow you to stay in your home, which you probably won't because they want you out of your home so they can digitize them and sell them off to the highest bidder, because it's no longer families bidding on homes. It's the corporation that's become part of the 401k, which I think is very sad. And let me come on the global sharing here. Let's look at the financial stability sector. Again, when you're looking at these different topics, all I do is the same thing. If I have a few minutes, I will just jump in. And here's one that you would look at, the Middle East challenges, because they're telling you in advance where it's moving to. It's not a secret. That's the whole thing. They broadcast this out, minutely, hourly, weekly, and then you already know where it's going to tighten. Here we go. Let me see if I can make this a little smaller on my browser here. There we go. So financial conditions index, or the standard deviations over or under long-term averages. So the Middle East conflict, what did it do for us here? Financial conditions. See where you look at the arrow right there, tighter conditions is the higher it goes. So what they're showing you is these economies right now are slated to continue to tighter conditions. Tighter conditions means less loans available, less products and financing available for like the US Exim Bank, which is the export-import bank that would finance overseas buyers to purchase American products here for American manufacturers to boost our business. That kind of Exim Bank loan stuff, not going anywhere. So where do we see emerging? Now, generally, where's the flat one is China. They're on their own world over there. But everywhere else, United States, Euro area, other advanced economies, that's ODEC. And then we got the emerging markets, excluding China, which is pretty much so every country on the planet, every continent, pretty much ex-China, is going to have tighter conditions for money flows and liquidity and availability for products and loans, and economic activity is grinding to a halt. Because you see where you talked about COVID there earlier, in Q3 of 2022, I wish the chart went back a little further, way back in the 70s or something. But you can see it got really tight around that time. There was people weren't working, people were home. There's not a lot of product because people were limited on they could go out and do shopping. It was demand destruction. And here we are, tighter conditions are rolling back in. It's only going to take another month or two, and we're going to be right back into the middle of the COVID tight conditions for the economy. Like the IMF's already broadcasting it. So it's not like, hey, Dave, how did you guess that? I didn't. I read the chart. I read the chart. That's all you need to do too. Just extend those lines out. Where's it going to go? How much longer will it take? Will it go incredible up? Just like we saw the incredible down in terms of, movements of goods from the Middle East, straight up. Gooseneck, Loch Ness Monster up. Can it do that with it? Of course it could. Now, some countries are going to have to print a ton of money to get out of this, i.e. the U.S. Like we're going to come into a really inflationary period in America, like way blowing away post-World War II. Anything post, 1970s, 18% of things. It's just, and let's see what we got here for, what would you put? And I would just put in cryptocurrency up here when I'm on the wrong keyboard. So let me do that again. If I could spell CRY. Because you can see the keyboard I'm using, I had to buy one on the fly because I broke my other one. It's all in Chinese and English. So I'm trying to type through this and get it all under control here. So the IMF crypto, they don't have anything. So you'd have to do a little more, probably, if I could spell cryptocurrency correctly, that's probably why. Because I know they have a shit ton of stuff on. Yeah, 1 of 37 for crypto. Okay, and then this is a goodie here. So again, what you would need to see on the, we're talking about global, forget Africa, they're on their own, they're gonna do whatever they do. Drawn along by like just under the current of the flow. So then you would start to look at what's going on with the stablecoin issuance here, because this is really the leading, this road leads to all Rome at the end of this hash graph, and everything is, they need to get this stablecoin thing figured out before they can even move the next, it's all in a stepped order. Figuring out the stablecoins, the Clarity Act, all this comes first to regulate the entire crypto space. Then they can dictate the rules of setting up payment systems. Then they can move away from blockchain to hash graph. So it's a set of steps. Once that's all complete, then we can come back to the digitization of all assets on the planet. Like your kids are going to experience that. If you have children right now, they're going to grow up in that world. We might have passed on by then, because I don't think this is going to be like a 5-minute event. This is as much as it were from the Gilded Age in the late 1800s to bringing us into the computer age, like that kind of movement, gradual but continuous. They've already told you where it's going to go. So Don't see much in that chart. Stablecoins, cross-border flows are growing faster than native crypto assets. Of course they are, because that's what this is supposed to do. So these coins were going to be pushed first to show you the concept, to get everybody used to remittances of this versus like Western Union spending your money and wasting your money. If you spend $20 home and you're going to send $70 worth of value and you only send 50 home, this lets you send the 69.9 home or something like that out of the 70. They have to get everybody used to these stable coins first. Like once you understand stablecoin issuance and how it works, that's fine. But the investment potentials of Bitcoin and the usage cases for Ethereum, that's totally different. They're trying to get your brain to say, hey, 1 USDC equals $1. I can move it anywhere on the planet without a bank for no fee or very, I mean, like a smidgen of a fee, like 1/1000th of a cent. They're trying to get you in this system first. When you get in that system, then they're going to take advantage of you. But they got to move you there first. Like you go up to anybody on the street and say, hey, do you use USDC or USDT? Have you ever transacted in that? Do you know what it is? And you know, a lot of people in America won't yet, but we all didn't know what credit cards were back in the 70s, did we? We all didn't know anything about online banking in the 80s and 90s until we learned it after the computer popped off, right?
Yeah.
We've all learned these things over time, over multiple decades. It's going to be the same thing. USDT, USDC. If we go into a point where economy is failing and the only way to get your food allowance is a USDT or USDC stablecoin, everybody will learn that within as fast as we did learn to stand 6 feet apart. There's going to be some sort of rush on the technology and the adoption of it. And you can already see that they're super happy that this is happening, that we're into the hundreds of billions and it will be trillions soon. But anyway, I digress, Ransom.
Well, you know, with all of that stuff going on, it's just I have this picture of my head of the future. It's kind of like a sci-fi movie, but it's more like a nanny state because, like, you could pick any number of movies that kind of predict the future, whether it's even dark or not dark. And in there, you'll have a small family living with robots. Everything's a robot. There's AI, everything. Ooh, that's nice.
Where did that come from? Late night friends?
Right. Yeah, but it kind of goes to this thing, and we'll get more into it in the second hour, but it's all going to the same place. And that's kind of why I was bringing up all of these changes in AI, that once that they get basically little mini data centers and homes in each neighborhood, and then they have the more massive ones, all crunching and calculating, it comes down to this. In the near future, if we have a world war or worldwide pandemic or worldwide cyber attack or any number of these other things, they will be using basically who has the most computing power. So it doesn't really matter who has the most nukes or the most infantry or the most tanks. It all boils down to computing power in the end. And you can see that that is the future that they're building: robotics, data centers, computing power. And if you don't believe me, just look at these. You know, I brought this point up that they're integrated human robot factory, but that's kind of just the anecdotal one right now. Later, that'll come into effect. But right now, what it is taking over the car industry. Who will drive the driverless car revolution? Well, it's not going to be you. The heavily congested California highway now controlled by AI, just like the air traffic controller centers are about to go. So is the entire highway network. And now you see why they're installing flock cameras and all of this stuff everywhere. CCTVs on every cross section. You have all of this stuff going on. And then this is the end result for you to worship the state, for you to worship the AI in one form or another, whether it's because that's where you get your money, because that's where you get your health care, because that's what's deciding the news, because, you know, hey, why not? They already got it going on in South Korea, naming their first humanoid robot Monk. You know, and we got AI Jesus. We have all of this other stuff. They're really trying to sell this to not us, because we all know it's BS. But there's a new generation of alpha, and they're going to grow up totally in this system. Tablets, screens, robots, AI. That will be their entire environment that they live in.
Yeah, so let me share this article then about Persia. Let's go back in time, how Persia reshaped us. Now, this is the fight here. Now, we are back to the old world versus the construct of the new world that's always been here with us. I do believe as we go back in the past, we find this battle between the AI. It's not AI, it's a consciousness, the AI. As referenced in some of these older cultures, perhaps Iran holds the key to destroying or putting the AI back into a bottle and bringing it and letting it hibernate for another several thousand years before it can find its way back to our world again. So the 5 ways ancient Persia shaped our modern world, the phrase of the Persian immortals, the elite royal bodyguard of the Achaemenid Persian Empire kings, the Achaemenids. So I wish I could see a regular human next to these, because a regular human would probably be 4 or 5 bricks tall, where these guys are immortal bodyguards, which means of 10, 20, 30,000 year lifespans of incredible knowledge and power beyond what we understand in the world of giants would be something like this. And you wonder the weight of those spears as well. And if we go back to Persepolis here, 500 BC, you look at the vast, incredible power of these former empires, and I understand why we would go there and look for these more ancient relics that have some power associated with them, because of rulers of the Persian Empire and the rulers of the Babylonian empires needed these objects to maintain their power. Would it not make sense that we also would go seeking the same objects? Now, the reason I bring in the map here is, after we invaded Iraq, we set up a bunch of archaeological digs and surrounded them with our military bases so they could continue to dig 24/7. It's just so interesting that after that, 2000, subsequent 2005 cool off period, the AI and really a lot of this, what we understand in the last 15 years, appeared directly after we did the archaeological digging in Iraq. So I'm really wondering if they'd found something, if they released something back, because the build out of Saturn also occurs at the same time. So we go in there, we invade Iraq, we're digging around all over the place under our military bases. So actually we surrounded the archaeological sites and called it a military base. Suddenly, whatever we found there, the emergence of Saturn pops off the same time, and the emergence of this early inklings of data centers and AI start. And as we get into 2015, which is not even a decade after, we're right into this AI. The early adopters they had this AI thing back in like 2012, and even prior. They say some of these companies had been working with AI since the 1970s. Not us, but the militaries. So it does seem coincidental that all of these things develop in the same rapid timeline after we did all these archaeological digs across Iraq when we were controlling that area over there. Just putting it out there, because the vast empires needed these same control mechanisms of objects for their control devices. And here's Maybod, a courier station. There's no megaliths out here. It's just different structures on how they did with the Silk Road and the way they defined this 20-mile carrying stations by 548 or so AD. And Persepolis, I really would have liked to see this place, even renderings of it, just blow anything away from the Solomon's Temple. So you start to take a look at the, vastness of that. This place has been so downgraded and so, oh, look, they only got a couple pillars. Greece is way better than that. Oh, look, they only have a couple ruined things. Rome was way better than that. But if you really look back at it, this place was, you think about the great wonders of the world, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, these ancient wonders of the world. And why is it so much that we still need to get there? Is there something we missed in Iraq? That's the last part that puts 2 pieces of a machine together, and that's the ultimate goal, is the archaeological artifacts under the guise and excuse of a war going on. Please join us for the second hour. We're going to come right back. The Civilization Cycle podcast, civilizationcycle.com is where you want to drop your email. I'll give you the show notes here, 10 bullet points with some charts of the show. Also, Civilization Cycle podcast, buy me a coffee, buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. We'll be right back after 2 minutes. Please come back and join us. I want to continue on the archaeological evidence because I think this is such an important pinpoint of the direction, the road that we're going. The crystal ball for the future is a history book. We'll discuss that when we come right back. We'll see you then. Hey everyone, are you ready to grow your own fresh, delicious vegetables, herbs, and flowers this season? If you're looking for the highest quality heirloom and organic seeds, I've got the perfect company for you, True Leaf Market. They've been a trusted seed company since 1974, offering 3,000 types of non-GMO varieties, everything from classic heirloom tomatoes and peppers to rare herbs, microgreens, sprouting seeds, and beautiful flowers. All their seeds are open pollinated, pure, and perfect for home gardeners or anyone wanting healthy, flavorful produce without chemicals. What I love the most is their huge selection, fast shipping guarantees, plus options for bulk if you're going big. If you're excited to start your garden this year with real, authentic heirloom and organic seeds, click the link in the description box below to check out TrueLeafMarket.com. You won't regret it. Happy planting, and thank you for supporting the channel and this broadcast. Product you love, the 72-hour emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. Not only emergency food, but camping food, and you can prepare that through the week as well. 20 delicious just add water meals. Think about creamy mac and cheese, hearty chili, sweet oatmeal. 2,000 calories a day. You need the calories. You're going to need to think and move. And the mashed potatoes, easier to make than oats, and you can add your own flavors. Goes with anything. For less than a couple of takeout meals at a fast food restaurant, get real peace of mind. And a real question to ask, how long could your family eat without leaving home? My Patriot Supply, click on that link in the description box below. It helps the channel. Truth is hard to say and hard to hear. Most people choose silence. We choose to speak. Your support of our sponsor keeps the Civilization Cycle podcast on air and giving us the courage to keep digging. That link's in the description box below. This is not a toothpaste. It's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts. Alpha Vedic Dental Solutions System. That's alphavedic.com/civilization. You know, we're always trying to bring you the best products here that we think will enhance your life, especially if supply chains break down further, or if there's some disruption in our lives here. It seems in the news more and more possible, but hey, who knows? Maybe it's a mind game. But what is not is keeping your dental health up. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? Will your toothpaste eventually run out? Well, if it does, then what? So like I say, this whole micro gut biome is driven by your oral cavity first. So take a look at what they have, alphavedic.com/civilization. Every purchase you make helps keep our live radio show and podcast on air, bringing you more information just like this. alphavedic.com/civilization. That link is in the show notes below. And as always, I appreciate your valuable time and joining us in this ever and most important conversation as we move forward in our world.
Please remember to sign up for our show notes. With Civilization Cycle podcast, you can learn what to expect as society resets. Agriculture, economy, tech, and history all have mappable cycles, and these cycles affect every aspect of our lives. We can navigate the chaos and thrive together with up-to-date news and information. Also, if you like the content we have here on Civilization Cycle, think about fueling the discussions and the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Civilization Cycle. And thank you for all the support.
And we're back. We're back here.
And welcome back. For the second hour, there goes the unmuted mic. Nice. Welcome back for the second hour right here on the Civilization Cycle podcast. Every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight. Ransom Godwin and myself bringing you some news, ideas, and thoughts on how the world's moving to next. How are we going to go through this? Well, the history book's going to be, I guess, your driver on this. What's happened in the past seems to be the future for most of us again. The stability of our society has never been stable. The picture they paint for us of being stable is, well, the thing to get you to continue to go to work every day, to have you continue to invest in the stock market, to have you abide by the rule of law, thinking that whatever you plan for today in 60 years or 50 years or 40 years will come to some sort of harvest for you at the end, and you'll drink cocktails on the beach. This is the way that it's been sold to us. But in reality, almost all of human history, we are in one of the very softest, most stable climate periods in the last 12,000 years. So if this is coming to an end, what would you expect then to occur if we were coming to the end of this? A lot of signaling, a lot of signs, not so much in the skies, but how about signs across the different areas of our world? So this Pacific El Nino plume, I don't know why the media is pushing this with such passion and energy. This is good. They're actually putting a name for it now, the Godzilla Nino, before, because Super Nino wasn't, I guess, big enough. They're going to have to explain away and get you to forget that you can drive an SUV because World War III is on and we're burning and there's planes everywhere and ships everywhere and there are emissions out the yin yang blowing away anything that we can do as just individuals. They're going to keep wanting to reiterate that the world's warming, but they can't point to the military with all the emissions. So the best way to explain away the world warming is El Nino. But see, El Nino is a natural phenomenon of just wind flow. High pressure, low pressure systems displacing the water that allows that mixing and different currents to stay on the surface or down well and get pushed below and circulate with cooler waters coming to the top, called La Nina. But I just don't understand what this whole thing is like. Again, to look at the verbiage that they're using. Moving like a freight train across the Pacific.
Ooh.
Extreme with boiling red map colors.
Oh, colors.
Now, Ryan Maue, one of my favorites, at least he's more of a realist on the thing. And this is off the news feeds. I get, like Washington Post likes to use, like, code red for Earth's climate system. But at the same time, it's going to suppress hurricane activity in the Atlantic. So look for far less hurricanes. Again, that goes completely against what we're told of global warming. We have category 6 every week during hurricane season. Now we got no hurricanes. We got World War III pumping emissions out, just unbelievable amounts, and the heat of the ocean. So see, they're going to try to deflect you. And again, they don't want you to look over here with all the emissions from the war. They want you to look right over here into the heating ocean, and that's all they want you to see. So I think the narrative of this one is, now this map might not even be correct. This is sea surface temperature anomaly map, November 2026. Again, they're forecasting out what possibly could be with wind flow patterns. It's not here yet. This is the ensemble map. We got the May 1st, but as we transit into and move through November, they're really expecting or trying to show you that there's going to be some warmer. Now, at the same time, we got the fertilizers that aren't going to be here. We got 70% reduction in 70% of all total farmers in America say that we got a problem with that. But notice where they're looking at August, September, October of 2026 in terms of the weather anomalies here.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be really dry across Southeast Asia, all the way down into Indonesia, South Asia, northern parts of Australia. Really dry. So again, their rice harvest will be affected. But then they got the fertilizer shortages in Asia too. It's way worse than it is in America because these guys over here, they buy right when they want to plant. So they don't have enough. Indian exports are shut off, Russian exports are shut off, Chinese exports for fertilizer are shut off. So Indonesian rice production is going to be heavily, heavily hit this year, and we're going into a drought there anyway with the fertilizer. Look for this place Something's going to be in the world news about Indonesia with the rice and the lack of food there. Weather across the Pacific, and the weather band is right there where the Pacific wind band is that's driving this El Nino. They've already marked some places on the map that are going to be problems. Now, suppressed means no hurricane activity in this zone right here. And you look at it and you go, all right, well, why are they pushing this so much? So let's see what we got here. Let's check out soybeans. It's trending. What's happening with soybeans? Oh, we hit a price spike with soybeans. All right. So while it may have felt like the sky was falling in the last few days, as ag markets followed up a sharp break in energies, meaning downward, still sitting near the upper ends of a 20% range that hasn't been. So here we're looking at October. This is far left of the chart is October of 2013. Let me follow the chart up. Oh wait, that was October 13th of last year. Excuse me, I read the chart wrong. So, but what are we looking for? The continuing upward trend of this. It might break down from the early March prices on soybeans, but it looks like we're going to continue upward. And I've always been told, man, anything under $10 for beans is a bargain. Well, we're up at $11.92. So it should be creeping up toward 12, 13, 15. And then you look out, where are they sitting on the CBOT, that's Chicago Board of Trade, soybeans right here, second line, coming settlements. I can't read, that's too small. Look at it, the price is increasing, 1175, 1184 out in March of 2027. So they're predicting an increase all the way through March of 2027. A year from now, that soybean price is just going to keep going up and up and up. If it's at 1121 now and they're predicting 1187, then that just means, well, there you go. Price is up and up and up. And here's some of your stuff. I know Alex Jones is offline. I don't even know why they have Alex Jones here because I guess they took him offline. I haven't seen the InfoWars site anywhere lately. His strategy shifts from never sell Bitcoin stance to selective sales. Now, again, that's a flip in itself. Because remember, a sailor was like, I'm never selling a single Bitcoin, into, now you need to buy more Bitcoin than you sell. So they're going to be into a flipping strategy because they box themselves in a corner. Here's another thing that's going on in the crypto market with Bitcoin. So many of these companies are buying it at such incredible amounts that they're stripping the supply out, like the amount minted every day, mined. They're stripping it. And then in another couple of years, it's going to halve from there. So it's going to go down to, it's fractions of what it is now. The corporations are buying, the companies are buying Bitcoin so fast that I think the available supply out in the world is under 2 million now completely. It used to be around 3 million. Now just in under a year, it's gone out of 2 million available. Now they realize if it goes under 1 million available, that's going to drive the price up while they accumulate more. So they need to come into this whole damage control thing of, we need to sell some. We're still going to buy, but we're going to sell. We're going to buy more than we sell. But when we need to move the market and manipulate the market, we're going to sell. So you can see everywhere that this whole thing is just a quagmire. And unless you have watched this news for a while, you wouldn't even be interested in that article. But I digress. Let me stop sharing that. Oh shit, I wasn't even on the X page when I was going through the narrative there.
That's right. Show that again. Can you show that again? Because that's exactly kind of where. Well, you don't have to. It was talking about the hurricanes and stuff, and I have an explanation for that right here from Electroverse on Twitter right here.
Oh yeah, Electroverse is a good one. Cap all on. I don't know the guy's real name, but solid work.
It says a new study tested the cyclone scare story of North Pacific, the world's most active basin, and basically lower. There wasn't that much of it. The data shows fewer cyclones, no rise in landfalls, no rise in cyclone energy. Actually, fewer predicted here.
Yeah, you can see how this is a natural system of balance within there. It has nothing to do with human-driven emissions. It's natural. Whether we had one car on the planet or we had 100 cars on the planet, it won't matter because it's a pressure system on a natural known cycle of activity at high spike, high wind pressure, blowing, keeping and increasing water temperatures, and then the low pressure system allows that water to well to the surface, and we get that cooler water called El Nino. You can suppress this. You can suppress the cold water coming up, or you can allow it to come up. It's a natural cycle. Been tracking this stuff for like 200 years. Nothing to do with your driving your car. Speaking of which, I like that chart there.
It's Godzilla. What'd you say they were calling it Godzilla now? Because
the Godzilla Nino.
Godzilla.
See, Super Nino wasn't good enough. Now they need to call it a Godzilla Nino.
Yeah, so this is I guess this is, you sent me this today's AAA national average share. So where I'm at here in New Mexico, this light blue state, it's $4 just everywhere I looked. Right on the money, $4, which is quite a bit because usually it's under $2 here.
Yeah, because remember everybody was talking about under Biden, $4 gasoline. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. It can't be any worse. It can't be worse. Oh my gosh. And now it is worse. But is anybody out there complaining and putting the stickers in? I did that. No, that was a whole narrative driven thing as well, wasn't it?
Right. Can you imagine living in one of those red states over there, having to pay that? Or even
Tennessee is in that very light blue, $4.40.
Yeah, it's not bad. They're really mad over in Tennessee because they just redrew the voting maps over there. So it's all Republican all the time now. They just cut out those cities.
You had to go to Memphis. It's such a large, gigantic city. You can't expect that one metropolis to be just one seat, right? Like the amount of people in Memphis is gigantic.
Right.
And Nashville as well. But I mean, Memphis is much older, being on the river and the riverboat. You go back into the early 1800s when Memphis was already a place on the Mississippi, way out over in the middle of the state or going east. You're talking tiny towns. Memphis was already a bustling metropolis. So you're telling me that you want all those people in one just voting block and one seat for that giant amount of population. That's more than 1/3 of the entire population of Tennessee in that one town. City, I should say. Excuse me.
Man, that thing's a nightmare, too. I've drove through that so many times.
Oh, it's a dangerous place, man. You do definitely don't want to stop in the wrong place, which is almost everywhere. You just want to keep on trucking.
Yeah, this the interstate. I noticed that, and I've been everywhere in the U.S. when it comes to the most confusing interstate setup that I've ever seen, it would have to be Memphis, Nashville, and Knoxville. All three of those are just like you couldn't pull a pin out of my butt with a tractor driving through those areas. It's so packed, and if you hit it during rush hour, oh God!
Oh man,
it's like driving. It's like Mexico City traffic.
It's like crazy. 6 lanes, especially when I-75 and I-40 come together going through Knoxville. Because I lived right up there, and my parents live in Knoxville. Used to, and like you get 6 lanes of traffic in both directions. Packed, crawling at a standstill, 6 lanes in both directions going at like 5 miles an hour. It's unbelievable. And especially some of those views where you can see 2 miles in the distance. You're like, oh man, I wish I had my camera ready for that because that was crazy.
Right. They have what is it called? The top of the world RV sales when you get right to that.
Yeah, that's the Holodomor map. So after the Holodomor was occurring and the Bolsheviks were rounding everybody up and executing them or starving them to death in Ukraine, the Russians decided to flee. And this is where they went to, and the numbers of people that fled from the oppression from the Bolsheviks at the time. Holodomor, anybody at the Holodomor, 4 million people starved to death. They just ringed them in with barbed wire and just burned every house, stole all their stuff, shot the ones who resisted, and said, you starved to death in this whole ring called Ukraine, believe it or not.
Yep. Hey, look at that map. Where's your Ukraine at?
Ukraine is what would be right above Romania where it says Soviet Russia. That whole area was, or right along the Black Sea. You can see the sea right there.
Right.
Or go above Romania and to the east of Poland and north of Romania. That's the Ukraine right there. That was the Bolshevik genocide right there. The Holodomor.
You mean there was no Ukraine there?
No, it wasn't Ukraine then, man. Even the maps show it wasn't Ukraine, man. So
No,
You know what I
this is
mean?
just like really this whole period, and I would say because we're really only 100 years out of it, was one of the biggest human extermination periods in recent that I know of. I mean, you can go back through the epics, and people were dying mass from disease and starvation and stuff, but just outright humans killing other humans. You got to mark that 1910 all the way to 1950, and really it didn't slow down all the way because you had all the stuff in Southeast Asia, Middle East. When you start adding all these numbers up, man, it's so
Oh, it's
crazy.
well more than 100 million people, well more. And I was thinking, they did population demographic. If those people wouldn't have been exterminated and we had that 100 million extra people at the time when they encouraged everybody to have 3 to 6 children, the world population would be over 10 billion now.
Right. So if you think about right before we entered Iraq, ironically, on the day of 9/11, they were showing a special on ABC that was about calling 9/11, calling 911. Ironically, that was the special for the night that never aired. But they were also going to show a story about how the U.S. involved military actions led to 1.8 million people dying in the Congo, and they thought you should know, but they never aired that night because we had a new thing. But it's ironic that they were showing you weirdly. You can say it's planned, it's not planned, but on the airwaves, the shows that were playing when the trade centers first got hit were stuff like Northern Exposure. They had uh, a couple of specials about Hugh Hefner and what's his name, the famous airplane guy that disappeared. Oh God, I'm bad with names tonight. Howard Hughes, right? He
Howard
disappeared.
Hughes, thank you for bringing that back. I was thinking Amelia Earhart, but out of different sex, unless.
Right. But it's weird if you really, like got out a pencil and started marking down, all of the death from about 1900 to 2000, and then go ahead and add on, the last 20 years. It's been a massive extermination of people.
Always has been. I mean, you go back to the Roman era, you go back to the Byzantine times, it doesn't matter what era of history. It seems like this planet's been under control and a managed farm with, allowances of herds to increase in size and then decreasing the herds. Because can you go back to that map for just 1 second, please? Now, notice down there where it says Yugoslavia, like we're going back, this is a 1917 and 1923 map. So parts of Poland now also, those are like Germany got cut, Czech Republic evolved out of that, Poland got sliced up, and you look at Slovakia got punched in there, Hungary, Yugoslavia, that's the whole Slobodan Milosevic, whole civil wars all there between Croatia and Serbia, and what do you got down in there? You got Montenegro and Albania and all those things down there now. So that whole Yugoslavia breakup too into those multiple Balkan nations. That how many people died in that war? Just even what was that in the surge of Sarajevo? I mean, how many people starved to death in that? Just alone, 40,000 just in that city starved to death. And you look at that and you go, that was the 1990s. How's that even possible that many people starved to death and died from diseases and other tens of thousands getting stuck? That siege of Sarajevo. Nobody talks about that.
Yeah, I was wondering how many of these Russians do you add in when you forward it 20 years? If all of these Russians were in these countries like Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Austria, Germany, and all these places, they weren't very, the areas weren't very friendly to them right then. Less than 20 years later, and not only that, after the war, I think they killed about 12 million German-speaking people. Not all of them even German, just because they spoke the language, because they were obviously the perceived bad guy after World War II ended. And they don't even count these numbers. Like they don't teach this kind of stuff really, like in school. As far as I remember, they lay off of this whole thing. They'll go right into World War II, but you don't hear much about the Bolshevik Revolution or anything like that, and how easy it is for something like that to get started and burn through a civilization, killing millions and millions of people. They really even barely even taught, about the Great Leap Forward and what was happening in China. And the only reason I knew about stuff like Pol Pot and stuff is, watching TV like 2020 or something like that, late at night. They didn't even teach any of this stuff. They didn't want any of, definitely my generation, to realize that they were born smack dab in the middle of a massive dehuman population control campaign for the last 100 years.
Yeah, and if you look at the Rhine River camps also, that's another big one that nobody's talked about post-World War II, the Rhine River camps. That's where the U.S. Allied forces put all of the soldiers after we captured them along the river, and they gave them there wasn't any way for them to get out of the elements, and they refused water. Almost 1 million. They put the number. There's different numbers. Our numbers here in America were. This is how they were housed, just out in the open, right there, in these barbed wire fence encampments. Anytime they tried to make shelters, we went with bulldozers, and even if they had dugout pits to stay out of the sun, we just buried them alive in there. Like what we did, and we did try to make out, America's the good guys, the Allies are the good guys. We murdered almost 1 million prisoners of war in these camps that stretched all the way down the Rhine River. That's why they were called the Rhine River camps. Look how dense they are. They're packed in there. Like the amount of disease death from dysentery and all these waterborne diseases, dehydration, malnourishment, all this. Like they only had a few guards for all of these, ringed in with machine guns. And they just pretty much starved them, and they had nowhere to put them. And these are just the captured German soldiers. So this is what we did post-World War II. So you start looking at some of these things going, all right. Like once they captured all these guys, what did they do with them? Well, they put them along the river and they had nowhere to put them. So this is what it looks like. Aerial view of the camps now. This is supposedly 160,000 prisoners in one little area. Now, are you telling me that all these people were using the bathroom and nobody got sick?
Yeah, I mean, they just
it's staggering what we had done to these people afterward, and you look at this and go, wait a minute, they were just stuck out like this, really? And that's what we did. If they died, oh well.
And then
the official numbers of American casualties was 3,000 to 4,500, but independent researchers put it around. Let me see, I might have a different number for you here. 800,000. Let me share this tab. Yeah, independent revisionist Canadian author James Bacak and many others as well put it between 790,000 and 1 million. So this is what World War II looks like if you were a German soldier at the end of it. Just saying, this kind of death and destruction has been continuous for hundreds of years. So I'm wondering what's next, because if you think about the last 20 years, it's been kind of calm on the planet. We haven't had any Pol Pots running around. We haven't any Mao Zedong's great leap forward, 40 million people starving to death. We really, it's isolated to maybe in the Sudan somewhere. It's isolated to maybe an African nation that's having a little bit of famine. But I do believe with all this fertilizer shortages, disruption in fuel, that we're coming into billions in famine here. And this is going to be the great one for our generation, because think about our generation growing up. Have there been any really notable mass millions of deaths that we could put into the history book in our lifetimes?
Yeah.
Not really. Not really that you can say that.
What do you mean by, I guess, are you talking tens of millions or just a couple of million at a time?
Yeah, tens of millions. Like you got to think back in World War II, tens of millions easily. And then you go back in like Stalin days and, marching forward in the Bolshevik days, easily 10 million plus.
Because I was going to say, we keep knocking off about 2 million at a time since then,
Yeah, but it doesn't really, it's not an international newsy type of thing. But are we coming into one that's going to be on the front page headlines of every newspaper across the planet like COVID was? But this time for famine is the question.
Well, you know what's it really weird to me that that they're pumping the hantavirus thing, because we're about to have grain shortages worldwide. And somebody was asking about, I'm not sure who it was, but somebody was asking in the chat about why is it that we grow a bunch of rice and send it to China if that we're adversaries with them? Because we can make money off of it. That's why. That's the simplest answer. But here in the near future, I could really see this rat thing coming back whenever they're saying that there's grain shortages. You remember Australia a few years ago when they were showing the massive amounts of mice running around just eating crops, and they would like lift up a tarp or lift up a board that'd been sitting on the
Yeah,
ground, like
like
1,000 mice just fly out of it. Well, those are
they
the
couldn't even
guys
drive
that,
on the roads because the tires were too slick, couldn't get traction. Your cars would slide off the roads, squeezing so many mice. That kind of imagery.
right. Well, imagine if you were a military industrial complex agency in the biological area arena, and you realized that a certain area was extra dry and had an overpopulation of mice or rats, and you just so happen to have a new kind of viral sensation that would be spread by the same rats. I mean, just think about that nightmare scenario. You're already in a grain shortage thing. Then you have rats supposedly infecting and eating the grain. People popping up with hantavirus all over the place because they're really acting like it's some kind of major spreadable disease, because you know the people that got off of that boat, they're tracking them wherever they went all over the world as if it's some kind of respiratory virus. So either A, it's not the hantavirus, B, they're about to say it's a mutated new strain of the hantavirus, or C, we find out it's something similar to what happened in 2020, or D, it's literally, like I said at the beginning of the show, a nothing burger, because you really can only get it one way if we're talking about the natural form of it. But it's really bizarre that it's at the head right now of all the news, outlets. The hantavirus, be scared again, forget about what's going on in the
No,
Hormuz.
wait. Oh, well, that would be the perfect excuse to stop grain shipments across the planet.
Yeah.
Hantavirus could be contaminated. We can't sell all that grain, needs to be destroyed because there
Yeah,
was.
like the chickens, like the beef.
Yeah, but this time it's the grain crops themselves because of the infestation of these mouses or mice, excuse me. Now imagine how this can play out itself. It's not just the virus that could do some damage, no air travel, no ship travel. They want you to do away with ships anyway. Your holiday, you're only going to go on one holiday every 3 years. You need to get used to the old 2030 goals here, friends and family. But imagine if they could use that as an excuse for curtailed availability of grains, only adding into then the fertilizer shortages and the disruption in food. Now we're getting a third layer of disruption in there because of the vector spread. The carrier, the mouse.
Yeah, look at this.
Mickey Mouse, baby.
With only 9 deaths around the world, I think you're like 7 times more likely to get struck by lightning than to contract the hantavirus. And like I said, it's a really specific way that you get the hantavirus. It's usually always spring cleaning, or someone that lives in like if they're elderly and they can't keep up with the mice invading their home. You're not going to find this virus in places like my house with 7 cats inside and 7 cats outside. There's no hantavirus here. Might have some of that toxoplasma, whatever. But my point, looking at Drudge Report right there, look at it, they got it like if it's World War III, like it's the main thing on there when only 9 people got sick.
Yeah, but again, it's the messaging. So that makes a lot of sense for me why they're pushing this, because if they can equate this mouse to the spread of it, then it also the crops come into the spread. Because if you've ever been to a farm, I mean, we have a barn and we kept chicken feed in it, and we always had mice. I had to put stuff out all the time, and you're only talking about 100 to 200 pounds of chicken feed that I would store up in there, in plastic bins no less, where they couldn't even get into. And they would still chew through stuff. Like you go in and you find like a chewed handle. They'd be ripping stuff apart on bags to go make their little nests somewhere. We'd always put the bait traps out, and eventually they would get, they would move from this world, let's say. But however many we tried, every time we got rid of them, there would be another set of family that would move in the very next year. Try to get rid of them all the time. Any farm, especially if you're storing grains, they always have mice. That's why they always have cats. Barn cats, they call them. There's a reason. There's something called a barn cat for a reason. You leave it in your barn because there's always mice. Snakes are in there too, which is cool. Anytime I catch a snake, I always try to put that thing inside our small barn. My wife hates it. She's like, "You got to get the snakes out of there, man. Can't believe you're putting a snake in there. I'm so scared." I'm like, we need the snakes to get the mice. I don't like leaving the poison everywhere because we had dogs and I don't want them. So I'm putting the stuff up on the top shelf where nobody can get it, but still, mice problems are huge on farms. There's nowhere that you're storing grains where there's not mice. Let's say that. So I'm putting these two and two together now. This is going to be a connecting dot for sure.
Well, let's get woo-woo for a minute. You know that in history, you could go back to like the Justinian plague or several others. And when you get into kind of the lore of the sicknesses, you know about the creation of the Grim Reaper. What we call the Grim Reaper now came from reports of some cloaked figure spraying a fog in the in the fields of grain and stuff, and then people began getting sick. Now, when I think about it, and I know that rats were responsible, this could have been people literally like smoking out the rats and pushing them towards the inside of town. And I'm talking about like a false flag operation in ancient times where they were doing something to move the mice in there. They might have had an understanding of the disease and how it spread. But on the other hand, there's also always a connection with these outbreaks and sicknesses with comets being in the sky. And there's a lot of, scientific theories that they bombard the earth possibly with, either neogenic properties of some kind of object or straight up extraterrestrial pathogens falling down on the earth. And there's a lot of people that are moving towards that being a more feasible idea, that every time that we get one of these extraterrestrial or interstellar objects that go by the earth, because I'm sure in the ancient past they weren't tracking them, they didn't know if they were interstellar or from the local neighborhood, but either way they associated these things in the sky with a bunch of sickness that followed. Now that could be as a lot of people theorize, like particles coming down, dimming the sun, causing, different conditions on the earth for pathogens to grow, less food, colder temperatures, kind of like the worst year to be alive there. That would be a good example of maybe some extraterrestrial debris coming from the Taurid meteor stream, interacting with the earth. But then we had series of volcanoes. So you tell me, in a modern situation with 8 billion people, some cities having 20 million people or more, like Tokyo and Mexico City, and I think that's kind of the bigger ones there. But if you had some kind of outbreak of a new disease, and I'm not talking about COVID, but just all of a sudden at the same time as we're having earthquakes and war, and the magnetic field is moving around and it's not, exactly where it should be or where the way it's traditionally been. It's real easy for these governments to just throw any kind of excuse they want to you on why things are happening, all the way in, and not limited to extraterrestrials, which seems to be, if you've been noticing, has really been building, that the U.S. government is going to release all this info. They have rumors in the churches that, they're telling people what you're going to learn will shock you, but don't panic. And I have a real feeling that they're going to either straight up say interdimensional beings are interacting with Earth, and they have been since biblical times, or they're just going to go the straight up ET route. And then all bets are off, because it doesn't matter what's going on the ground. Everybody's losing their minds about their reality changing the boundaries on them.
Well, the economy would collapse on the planet in a matter of hours at that point. No, 48 hours and the economy would cease to function. Like, everybody would pull their money out of the bank, whatever kind of money they had saved away for anything. They'd be like, aliens are here. Got to protect the kids and family. We're pulling all the money out of the bank. We're buying whatever. There'd be no money left in any investment fund. It would all be pulled out to go buy stuff. The stores would be stripped clean. All the banks would cease to exist. They'd have to lock, withdrawals out there. But at the same time, we got this tick thing going on, because there's a comment right here. It used to be only deer mice carried Hunta, but the same thing with tick-borne illnesses. Almost all those with the Lyme disease was normally deer ticks. It wasn't like Lone Star ticks and all these other things that normally carried that. So again, now it's every tick carries some sort of either meat pathogen that'll give you a meat allergy, some sort of Lyme disease sickness. It's the same thing, like the vector change on this. That'd be like saying every mosquito now carries malaria, when only before there was one or two types of mosquitoes that, with those little black and white striped ones, terrifying little things when you see them, would be carrying the malaria. What's that one?
Oh, they always scare us in New Mexico with the West Nile virus.
West Nile. I haven't really, that's not on my dinner plate, man. Malaria is, though.
Yeah, they tell us.
I had malaria when we were surfing in Indonesia, and I just got terribly sick, chilled to the bone. Didn't know if I had some kind of falciparum malaria, because that was the big one going on there with a lot of, it was like in West Java, way out there and on the coast. Like, thought I had malaria, man. And I was terrified that I would. And it was that kind of not curable. And it just turned out I was sick, luckily. But still, that whole malaria thing there, I really did a lot of research on it after I finished that episode of my life.
Oh, wait. I'm gonna have to kick this person out of that. That's just blasphemy.
What is that? Pueblo green chili is the best. Oh, come on now. You're getting into fighting words here.
No, I'm just kidding with you. But, we joke around in New Mexico with all kinds of memes about soft things being Colorado chili versus New Mexico chili, because none of their chili's hot up there. It's just not.
You're saying it right now. You're calling it's not even hot. Just get it out. I could pour that stuff in my eyes and it won't even affect me. You chili posers.
Yeah, you get out of here. I'm just kidding.
Get out of here, chili poser. You're out of here.
The chili wars. Yeah, right. No, it's just and you bring that thing up about the ticks. That thing is just boiling in the background, and it's so disgusting, man. I'm watching videos every day: snakes, deer, elk, moose. I am so glad that I live in the desert and don't have ticks here. Now, we got, like I said, we have our own things that they scare us with every year: dengue, malaria, West Nile virus. You don't want to get the Zika,
I only get the Zika if I'm going out on a Friday night. When we want the Zika.
Yeah, and you ever, think about these things and wonder why they just disappear off the map? You remember when for years they terrified people with the swine flu, and then it moved into the bird flu, and then it was H1N1 and H1N3 and N4, how many ever splices they have there. And I remember in the early 2000s when they were talking about the bird flu, the guy got on TV and said, "Oh, well, I'm not worried about this one because I know where this one came from. This is one that we made." And this was long before the 2020 scandal.
Scary. Hey, let me share off on here on the Civilization Cycle podcast. Buy me a coffee. Thank you so much for your support tonight. Someone, thank you for the conversation. Well, thank you for being here with us from the 3 double espressos. Pamela Pollock buying us 5 double espressos. Great insights on the night. Just trying to put it together. I want to try to get a better gauge of where this whole set of circumstances. I think it's moving us to famine myself. I think it's into a world population reduction scenario here and a wealth redistribution event to move us into the new digital money system. I think because too many people, you can't pull them across the line. You're going to have to get rid of them. There's going to be too many protesters in this as they reset the economy, completely take away the old economy down to zero, and the phoenix rises out into a new system, and people will be reset 100 to 1 to 1,000 to 1. That's a recipe for social chaos. They're going to get rid of people before and during that event as it happens. So these are all tied together. Silver Creek brought a double espresso. Getting expensive in Indiana. I thought it originally said gelatin expensive in Indiana. I was like, really, gelatin? That's an interesting one. But getting expensive, and I'm wondering what you mean by getting expensive. In Tennessee, things are going up noticeably. 50 cents here, 45 cents there, 30 cents there. But now it's starting to add up, where it's on every product, every purchase, everything. Insurance has gone up. Everything is just continues to go up in East Tennessee. I was talking to people back, like, man, every time I go to the store, I can actually see the price difference now, because it's moved from the 99 cents within like a $4 range, and then it's up in the $5. So whoa, it's 5 something now compared to what it's 4. It's 23. Now it's 30. It's noticeable now because it jumped the shark on the 99 cent movement where they can still mask it. It was a $4.25 and then it's $4.35. It's still in the $4 bundle, right? But when it goes into the $5.50 bundle, whoa, it jumped out of there. Silver Creek and someone, thank you so much for your support tonight on the Buy Me a Coffee channel there. I wanted to stop sharing that. I did want to jump into Arrived, though. This is a huge one. If you hadn't seen Arrived in Real Estate, let me share this for you. This is a new type of you're going to own nothing. So another shift in the economy that's occurring right now is micro investments. This system wants all of your money, and the promise of great riches with a small amount of investment is where they're targeting you now. They realize that the younger generation doesn't really have that much money to invest like our parents did, or our generation, if you want to even consider it a wealthy generation, compared to those that are 18 or 20 right now. We are incredibly wealthy. We might as well be sitting on piles of gold, and our parents might as well be sitting on tops of emeralds, rubies, and gold, comparatively. So the further you go down in the age strata, the less capital they have available at their hands. And it's meant to be that way. You're extracting all the wealth. It's an extraction event to reset a new system. So what do they want to do now? Arrived. Buy, sell, and own shares of real estate. Micro. You can buy as little as $100 when you're purchasing something like this. What's it all about? The reason I would bring this up, because JD Vance, our vice president, is the one that is super involved with this one right now. So these are all the properties and areas that you can actually get into and get micro investments in property. So you don't have to buy a whole house anymore. You don't have to buy like a stock on the stock market. You don't have to invest in bonds. You can do as little as $100 and get in on a property now. So when our vice president is super deep as an investor in this, what does it tell you about property selection and coming through hundreds of millions of dollars invested in micro transactions? Like, here it is. Oh, initial share price, even on this one here, 37% gross return. You can invest as little as $10 and own this property with how many other people? It doesn't really say there, but I'm sure it's thousands of other people. So think about if they have 100,000 people that put in $10, you could buy $1 million property and finally sit on it and look, your $10 turned into $12.02 just after 3 years. That's better than the S&P's doing. We better invest today. This is the whole thing here. They're trying to get you into handpicking your investment goals. 703 investors on this property right here. Everything is available for you at $100 or so. That's your minimum buy-in is $100. How do we invest right here? We should look at it. You've arrived.
Can you buy out the other people's shares on each house?
I don't know. I didn't read deeply enough into it. I didn't have that much time when I was surfing the news. So they're trying to promise you an 8.1% yield on this one here. So think about that. Most stable coins are going to give you 4%. This is the whole thing about the Clarity Act, is they were battling, the banks were battling, at least behind the scenes, to make it appear as if they were trying to save themselves, because your USD Tether and USD Circle, USDC or USDT stable coins are going to give a 4% interest payment. Not to Americans, they've written that out. Usage, you can get some payback, like a usage where you swipe a credit card and you get 2% back. They're going to allow that, but they're not going to allow straight up interest where I own $10,000 of the USDC and I just park it in a wallet somewhere and I collect 4% off of that. That's not allowed in America, but it is around the rest of the world. So here you go, 8.1%. That blows away anything stablecoin yield. So again, they're trying to entice those that know cryptocurrency, that look at the staking and restaking markets, into 4.4%. That's still, anything equal with what crypto payments are giving you on staking. Now, there are some riskier bets where you could do that and you can get above, and you can get into the 10% range once you stake and then, restake that on a liquid staking token. You can do all that goodness, but it's dangerous. But here they're offering you 8.4% pretty much. Just, hey, there's one in Nuga right there, Chattanooga, 250 investors, 22% in funded. So, again, you don't know what's the fund rate on this one here. Look at the interior. It's so beautiful, man. We can get a micro investment in the house. So $377,000 is the total. They got 250 investors. Do the math on that. It's only 22% funded. And then if we do go to,
so you're telling me I could just drop like $30 a week on just random houses and start getting income from renters?
Yep. This is it. So I'm wondering, once you get invested in the house, do they do it by the resale of the house property, which would get you on a capital gains tax, or is it on the rental price for the month, where they're bringing in on a rental agreement, where then you distribute that? Let's say that house is $2,000 to rent for a month. Does everybody get a share of that $2,000 as like a perpetual income as a rental property? But that counts as net income for you too. So either way, you're paying taxes on that. It doesn't really matter.
Right. You would have to also, if you were doing it rental and they were splitting like the rent like that, you would have to have a big chunk of the investment there for you to get a payback of any kind a month.
Right. So unless the value of the home also increases and you decide, like you said, to sell out your shares to other holders of that. And then here, this is who the hell's in this one here? Excuse me. Bezos is in this, and Jeff Bezos. He is the number one funder of this thing called Acre Trader. Now, Acre Trader here is a farm selection entity as well, where you are able to pledge as little as hundreds of dollars to buy in on farmland at a fractional piece. We select a tiny fraction of parcels we review, ensuring the highest quality. And what you're able to do is then invest a small divided fractional share into this farmland. It's the same principle exactly as going on with the houses. But what is this all getting to show us? It says 40% of all farmland is rented or leased. Yeah, I get that, but it's just hundreds of dollars for an acre, even less. I know a lot of farmers who lease land. It's way cheaper for them to lease it, run it, instead of having to buy it and pay property taxes on it. So they don't have that property tax edge of it. So a lot of times it's cheaper for a farmer to lease land and use it to grow corn or soy or something than it is to actually outright hold the land and pay property taxes on it. I know it's smidgens of a penny to hold it, but still, if they're going to run 10,000 acres, that's a bigger property tax bill. But what is this all leading to is the question. What is it leading to?
No one owning anything.
You will own nothing.
Right.
You will own nothing. That's the whole point. The messaging is you are going to own fractions of something as an investment. You are never going to own an entire property. You're never going to own an entire acre of land. This is the messaging out. And to get the younger generation interested in these type of investment vehicles is the messaging that builds itself into popular society. We're too old for that. We won't buy this. I mean, not buy it in terms of investing in it, but for them to sell us the message of you're not going to own your house, you're not going to own your car, you can fractionally own something. They have to outweigh our generations to pass on.
Right.
But the newer generations growing up, if they could start now after 30, 40 years, it will be just the way it is.
Right. What it makes a whole lot more sense now. What we were talking about years ago when we were pointing out the trend of the corporations and entities buying up all the private property. Whether it was farmland or houses, they're just buying it up. Now we know what they're going to do with it.
They're gonna have it as investment vehicles where they can recoup some of that and draw all that money in. So what happens if there's a foreclosure on it?
Yeah, and somebody
What
asked,
happens to your investment?
who pays for the new roof on those
and there's
houses?
Slay's redfish. They will use the Honda to burn the fields. Yeah, who pays for the new roof? Who pays for all the upkeep on that?
Right. They would deduct that out of your shares of supposed profit that you would be making every month.
Yeah, because the properties need upkeep. You know, being a homeowner myself, or a home lease payer, shall we say, a home mortgage payer, not an owner yet. Continuous upkeep, especially on a farm. We're out in the middle of nowhere. There's always something that, I redid the roof. That's fine. Then we needed to redo some electrical. We had to add in like an extra water heater, like a preheater, because our water heater wasn't, strong enough to get you. And it was just, now the gutters needed to redid the gutters. Now the back deck needed to get done. The front deck needed to get done. It was just never ending ever. There's always maintenance. What I'm saying, you just can't leave a house to go, and there has to be somebody there.
Right. And all of this is going in the background, which tells me that the world ain't going to change too much. So there's no digital system you're looking at. It's just a nightmare of a bunch of unhoused people paying rent and using digital currency to do everything from eat to sleep per night, probably. And it might even end up being very similar to like in Japan, right? Where you can just rent the little pod to sleep in. It's like a vending machine almost. Here's $50 and you get in there. It's got all the plugs to charge your stuff and the TV and the bed and the air conditioner. And you just, there's your house. You will own nothing and you're happy in your little pod that you're renting. And I think that's why they're pushing this, this thing here is probably, they've been looking for a reason. And, you remember that Albert Pike letter that talked about whether it's real or not, it's still the idea of it, that they would let the three religions go at it, and then they would let the atheists say, look at the religions, they're the reason that we have so much strife, and then they would kill all the atheists because they're crazy too. um, uh, and this is kind of what they would do. Without doing that, they could just demoralize people or dissolve their beliefs and stuff. That might be how you get the older people to join these newer programs, because they're just going to shock and awe a new world for them. Hints at the upcoming batch of UFO files, but look at the if you look at the headlines with that, they're talking about giving away secrets to the other nations that aren't going to really like that. And then, of course, you have this right here. Trump's alien files could shatter Christian beliefs, but not just Christian beliefs, other, religions and stuff. And then they would have the world right where they want them, kind of in that atheistic space that needs a new direction, which would be, those AI religious.
Well, they'd have to, these beings would have to show up in person before anybody would convert to a new world religion. Like they'd literally physically have to show up.
I'm sure
If, like,
Pfizer has
God
one.
creators,
I'm sure Pfizer or Russia or China or the U.S. probably has, part amphibian, sapien of some sort. Just waiting. I mean, think about it. Like, these ships started crashing and you're really only seeing the bodies in there. The first 10, 15 people that took their iPhone up to a crash of one of these things would say, look, oh my God, it really is an alien. Oh,
it came back to life. I saved its life. It's now my best friend.
And it
protects my farm.
It's just some poor schmuck that was only 80% human in a lab somewhere that they shoved in there with some seatbelts.
Into the large grow chamber. Yes, it is indeed. Well, everybody, we're coming to the end of the hour here. Thank you so much for your time tonight. CivilizationCycle.com is the website. Jump over there. We'll put together the show notes and get those to you out tomorrow morning. And also buy me a coffee /Civilization Cycle if you like this kind of content, human-generated content, no less. Please support us, keep us on air. We got running costs with the software, etc. But again, it's all coming down to human-generated content, which is being overwhelmed on YouTube and different social media platforms right now with everything AI. Producing 3,000 pieces of content, 3,000 videos a day compared to doing one as a human. We're getting lost in the mix. So if you like human-generated content, please continue to support that, and we'll continue to bring these ideas together.
Yeah,
because I think it is all related now. There's no way to not see it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's all coming to the head right now.
Speaking of the human-generated content, somebody asked me what the name of that song was at the beginning of the show. And again, like last week, I spent like 30 seconds typing some prompts into an AI, and it spit out a rap song within probably 30 seconds again. So almost a total of 1 minute. An entire song was produced with lyrics and everything by the AI. That's what we're competing with. Even when I'm making a mix that's my own, I spend 3 or 4 or 5 days practicing it before I even record it. And the AI just, boom, there it is.
Yeah, because the last session, also our last show, last Thursday night, you also had done an AI-generated song, which was pretty sweet. I thought I was listening to like Buddha Bar somewhere, sitting on a Thai beach back in the 90s or something, the way that flow had,
Anyway, peace out, everybody.
See ya. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Share this with your friends and families. Post that link, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.